Today, I saw an article on United with Israel. And periodic reminder: what am I doing with this? I'm wearing this in honor of all the Jews who died at the hands of the Christians, from Constantine to the Holocaust. That entire time was, or actually from 67 AD to the end of World War II, was the time of Jacob's trouble. And the time of Jacob's trouble has not ended yet. But in honor of those who suffered and died from these pogroms, rapes, pillaging, and murders in the name of Jesus, the son of Zeus, I wear this, the yellow star, and the yellow clothing of shame that the Christians forced the Jews to wear for nearly 2,000 years. And may payback come upon the enemies of Israel. So this article on United with Israel, I'm not sure if it originated on a different website or not. It doesn't appear to be. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and read it. It's by Max Gelbar. Prince William, Queen Elizabeth's grandson and second in line to the throne, is the first British royal to pay an official visit to Israel. During the 4-day tour, the prince will visit the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial, accompanied by Britain's chief rabbi, Ephraim Mirvis, and will also view Jerusalem's old city from the Mount of Olives. He will also visit the Church of St. Mary Magdalene and visit the tomb of his great-grandmother, Princess Alice. His father, Prince Charles, and grandfather, Prince Philip, had visited the site before during trips considered private. Prince Charles has Israel visited twice for funerals of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and President Shimon Peres. Jason Knopf, the Prince's Communications Secretary, underscored the non-political nature of the visit. Please, folks, notice the term non-political. And as we go further into this article, we will see that that is a bald-faced lie. The non-political nature of His Royal Highness's role, in common with all royal visits overseas, allows a spotlight to be brought to bear on the people of the region, Knopf said. However, the Duke of Cambridge's visit has already struck unpleasant political chords. The Hebrew statement issued by the British Embassy in Tel Aviv announcing the visit said that the prince will visit the Palestinian Authority, while the English statement said that he will visit the occupied Palestinian territories. This is a double-mindedness. Furthermore, Kensington Palace announced that William's visit to Jerusalem will be a part of his official visit to the PA, even though it is Israel's capital. The next day's program in the occupied Palestinian territories will begin with a short briefing on the history and geography of Jerusalem's old city from the viewing point of, at guess where? The Mount of Olives. The itinerary published by the palace on Monday says, that's according to the itinerary. So he's going to go to the Mount of Olives as a European British royal. Rather than finesse Britain's position on the most explosive issue in the Arab conflict with Israel, Britain decided to use Prince William's visit to do what no government other than Pakistan ever did, claim in an official act that these sections of Jerusalem belong to the Arabs, not the Jews, says Caroline Glick, as she wrote for Breitbart. Almost every aspect of William's visit, except for his meetings with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, and Israel's Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem, are political, she charged, noting that Prince William's visit to Israel supposedly ends a 70-year boycott by the British royal family on the Jewish state, Glick surmised. Unfortunately, Prince William's deeply political and hostile historic visit indicates that ending the royal boycott is not a sign that Britain has turned over a new leaf in its hostile and contemptuous treatment of the Jewish state. I would call this article an understatement. You see, folks, the royal family of Great Britain, I have gone over this many times. They worship the Great Red Dragon. I have posted videos on that. Members of the family have done the Nazi salutes and have worn Nazi regalia. Even Prince William's own brother, now race mixer, Prince Harry. It doesn't matter if you go and mix your race or not, Prince Harry. You still wore Nazi regalia. One of your parents even did the Nazi salute, or one of your grandparents, I should say. And of course, you see, this all goes back long history of contempt for all things Jew, for all things Israel, while the kingdom in Great Britain is a very classic example of all the kingdoms of Europe, made themselves the head of the church. In other words, replaced the head of the church with themselves. Replaced Yeshua Messiah as head of the church with themselves. And in so doing, they got honor and glory from Satan, the devil himself. They worship the great red dragon. The red dragon is one of the so-called queen's beasts. So, is it any wonder that he would have contempt for Israel and Israel's Messiah when he comes? See, as Paul said in Romans 11, if the root is holy, so are the branches. What it means is you cannot have contempt for the branches and have love for the root. It is impossible. So, these kingdoms of Europe, and the British kingdom being one of them, let no man deceive you concerning the royal line of England. They are Romanish. They are not of the house of David. That statement that somehow the British royal family are of the house of David was designed to usurp honor and glory that did not belong to that British royal family. Plain and simple. So, figure I'd share this article with you, and those who, like I said, once again, those who have contempt, I think I will go ahead and go to Romans 11. It's very, very important. It's very, very important to remember the words of Paul. Paul being the only apostle to the Gentiles. I know the Gentiles reject that. They claim that Peter is. Well, their so-called Peter was not the Peter that Paul knew, was not the Peter that John knew, was not the Peter that Mark, Luke, and Matthew knew, or Yeshua Messiah. He was a different Peter. Some say the one that they call their apostle is none other than Simon the Magi. The only apostle to the Gentiles was Paul. Now, I'll go ahead and go to Romans 11 and read this again. Starting in verse 1. I say then, hath Jehovah cast away his people? No. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. He has not cast away his people whom he foreknew. The answer is no. If he hasn't cast away his people who he foreknew, then why have the Roman Church, Christians, spent almost the entirety of 2,000 years butchering, slaughtering, and defaming the Jews? Don't you know what the scripture said of Eliyahu when he made intercession to Jehovah against Israel, saying, Jehovah, they have killed your prophets and digged down your altars, and I'm left alone, and they seek my life also. But what was his answer to him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. That image, incidentally, which Roman Christianity is bowing down to this very day. Billions of them. Do you think that you're going to be accepted when you bow down to that graven image on Sunday morning along with the rest of your kindred? Along with the rest of your church folk? If the Israelites who bow down to Baal were rejected, and he only accepted the 7,000 in Eliyahu's age, do you think there's going to be an exception for you Christians who bow down to the image of Baal, Zeus, Jesus, whatever you want to call him? Verse 5, even so, at this present time, he's scolding the Romans for shooting off at the mouth against the Jews, and he's warning them and saying, look, there are a plenty of Jews at this time. And also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. Wait a minute. Listen to what this says. Even so then, at this present time, also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace there is no more of works. What works? The works of the law, the works of the Levitical priesthood, those works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then there is no more grace. There is no grace. Otherwise, work is no more work. In other words, you can't have the works of the law, the sacrifice and offering for sin in the Levitical temple, and have grace at the same time. So there were those aplenty who knew and who believed. And once the temple was destroyed, then that ended the works portion. Verse 7, what then? Has Israel has not obtained that which it seeks for yet. What do you mean? The restoration of the kingdom. But the election has obtained it, or shall obtain it. And the rest were blinded. Verse 8, according as it is written, Jehovah has given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day. And David said, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. And let their eyes be darkened, that they may see and bow down their head, bow down their back. Verse 11, see, this is where the Gentiles stop and see. See, we told you so. No. You got to continue reading the words of Paul. Have they stumbled that they should fall? Absolutely not. But rather, because of their fall, you Gentiles have a chance for salvation. Through their temporary fall, you Gentiles now have a chance for salvation which you did not at first. And if that is so, then it is incumbent upon the Gentiles to be extra honorable, decent to the Jews. Even if the Jew won't speak to you, be extra honorable and decent to the Jews. Why? Because were it not for their fall in 67 to 70 AD, Gentiles wouldn't have a chance. Would have no chance. It is come to the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, or the Roman world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more than their fullness? Remember what we talk about when Israel's fullness is bringing back all of the tribes of Israel according to the promise that was made in the prophets. It is a light thing that I should send you to be my servant, to bring back all the tribes of Israel, but that you should also be a light to the Gentiles. Gone over that before. There is a difference. These are two promises. Both are guaranteed. What is that? To bring back all the tribes of Israel, all, no exception, no Israelite being left back home. Everyone, good and bad, must be brought back. There's something that I want to talk about concerning that. People have this strange, weird concept of the lake of fire. I want to set that record straight in just a minute. See, he says in verse 13, "For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles." See, the other 12 is one for each tribe. One for Benjamin, one for Judah, one for Gad, one for Asher, one for Joseph, one for Dan, etc. For if to cast, let's see, if by any means that I may provoke to emulation them which are of my flesh, and might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the Gentiles, being a light to the Gentiles, what shall be the receiving of them be but life from the dead? For if the first fruit is holy, if Yeshua Messiah is holy, then the lump is also holy. So you can't go around murdering the Jews, defaming them, without doing the same thing to their Messiah. This is the reason why Christianity today will reject Israel's Messiah. You cannot love the Messiah and hate the Jew. It's impossible. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. Now, I almost forgot what I was going to talk. Oh, the lake of fire. Look at this. Let me show you something. Before I do that, all right, Luke 12:47. This, starting in verse 41, this is talking about Israel. I will prove it to you by showing you what the lake of fire is for. Verse 41, and Peter said unto him, Master, are you speaking this parable unto us or to everyone? And Yeshua said, who then is that faithful and wise steward? Oh, actually, let's go ahead and start in verse 35. Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, figuratively speaking. And when you yourselves like unto men that wait for their master, so who waits for the Messiah? Israel does. Christianity has rejected the Messiah. All right, so when he will return from the wedding, what is that wedding? The wedding is between the Messiah and the New Jerusalem. He returned from the wedding, and he comes and knocks, and they may open up to him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself in waiter's clothes, and make these people who are waiting to sit down at a table. And then he will come forth and bring them food. Serve them. And if he comes in the second watch or come in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. And know this, if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not suffered his house to be broken through. But you therefore be ready also, for the Son of Man comes in an hour when you think not. And then Peter said unto him, Master, speak you this parable unto us, or even to all? And Messiah said, who is that faithful and wise steward when his master shall make ruler over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he does comes, finds so doing. Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he has. And if that servant shall say in his heart, my master delays his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to be eat and drink with the drunkards. What has Christianity done? That is exactly what they have done. they beat the other men servants and maid servants, and they ate and drank and be drunken. The master of that servant will come in a day when he looks not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and appoint his portion with the unbelievers. Now, and that servant who knew his master's will, and prepared not himself, neither according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. But he that did not know, but did commit things worthy of stripes, shall be beaten with only a few. And when you read that in Strong's Concordance, it means little. Very little. But he that knew not and did, I just read that. For whomsoever much is given of him, much will be required. All right? To whom was much given? We just read Paul saying, if the diminishing of Israel is the riches of the Gentiles, so during this whole time, much was given to the Gentiles. It says, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. Now, lake of fire. I said I was going to talk to you about the lake of fire. Watch this. All right. We just read about the marriage of the Lamb. Revelation 19, verse 6, and I heard of him that in the voice of a great multitude, and the voice of many waters, and as a voice of mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia, for Jehovah Elohim omnipotent reigns. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife has made herself ready. We have read, I believe it's later on in the chapter, that the New Jerusalem is the wife of the Lamb. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints, of the elect, who are the elect Israel. And he said unto me, Blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said unto me, These are the true sayings of Jehovah. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See you do it not. I am your fellow servant and your brethren. And of your brethren. Who's John's brethren? The Jews. That have the testimony of Yeshua. Worship Jehovah, for the testimony of Yeshua is a spirit of prophecy. Now, so we read in verse 11 and through 16 that Yeshua Messiah is the right hand of Jehovah that's going to tread the winepress that is written in the prophets. Verse 17, we can read this in Ezekiel 39 as well. I saw an angel standing in the sun and cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great Jehovah, that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, the flesh of all them, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the beast being it starts with the 10 toes. Almost ran out of battery here. Starts with the 10 toes. And of course, you can read about it in Daniel. That's the entire beast. The 10 toes. All the way to the head of gold. And the Messiah strikes the 10 toes. So these are the 10 kings, the 10 toes that are going to come against the Messiah. After the marriage, which means the New Jerusalem is going to be come down. How is this possible? This is not what your preachers have told you. It says he comes back. When you read in verse 19, the beginning of chapter 19, it says, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife has made herself ready. And it talks about, let me see. It may be as this is happening. So they're all going to come and try to dethrone Israel's Messiah. And the beast was taken, verse 20, and with him the false prophet that wrought wonders before him. So the beast is the armies of Europe, the 10 toes. That's going to be the ones that are going to be struck in Daniel 2, verses 43 to 45, and all of Daniel 7. Read it. The false prophet, that man at the Vatican. And he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? The mark of the beast is the cross. It is the emblem of the beast. And them that worshipped that image. Listen very carefully, folks. In verse 20. The beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. They both were cast alive into the lake burning with fire and brimstone, and the rest of the armies were slain by the sword, by him which sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. Now, you can read in Revelation 20 that after 1,000 years, a final judgment upon Gog and Magog from the four corners of the earth are going to come again. And they will be, at the final judgment, anyone whose name is not written in the book of life will be cast into the lake of fire. Now, Revelation 21. Revelation 21 talks about the new heaven and the new earth and the new Jerusalem. Make sure I got this right. Verse 8. We'll start in verse 7. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his Elohim. This is the Father speaking. And he shall be my son. but the fearful, and the unbelieving, and the abominable, and the murderers, and the whoremongers, and the sorcerers, and the idolaters, and all liars shall have their part, which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now you see, the promise goes to Israel and any Gentile who is a believer. And concerning the rebels of Israel who will not obey the Messiah when he comes, here it is. Ezekiel 20, verse 38. This is coming restoration. He says, when he brings them back again, I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth, even the rebels, out of the country where they sojourn. But they, the rebels, shall not enter into the land of Israel. And there you have it, folks. So, the King of England and the Queen, and all the kings of Europe need to prepare for judgment because it's coming. And that man in the Vatican is going to be thrown into fire. It's just that simple. Don't be one of those who worship the image of the beast, Baal, Zeus, or Jesus, or his mark, his emblem.